Hi, welcome to PHP and MySQL video. This is a list of suggestions on how to use this video. The notes for this video can be found here at this URL, which is loaded here. And we are going to do step 5, example 10. So in this series of videos, we are going to do MVC pattern. All right. In step 4, we build a pretty complete application, but there are certain things that are not really correct. For example, how to pass control between files, how you should handle the communication with the database, and how to organize your code to make it more easy to manage. So MVC pattern is going to address that. So MVC pattern stands for Model View Controller pattern. All right, it's a kind of way to organize your code. It's not a language, it's just a set of guidelines for you to organize your code so that your program can be more easily managed, especially in a team environment. Right? If you're working on the code alone, you don't really need to care too much about this. You just do whatever you want. Of course, a few months later you forgot what you did because the code are not organized. But with Model View Controller, you can pretty much see a pattern in your code and easily manage it, even by yourself. It's especially useful when you have a team of players. Like the code become too big, you have to farm it out to different users to manage different part of the code. So what does Model View Controller stand for? Right, model stands for model, of course. And what it does is it communicate with the data storage. Normally is the database. So anything you communicate, anytime you communicate with the database, you write a function, you put it under the concept, under the organization of a model. Okay. View is every time your code communicate with a user, basically the user interface is under the view. So you can easily divide your program into different parts and let different people manage your code, or you divide your program into different parts. So next time when you come back and look at your code, it's easier to see what's going on, and you don't repeat the things you write. So hopefully, after you write certain functions to communicate with the database, you can reuse the code over and over again. Same thing for the view. Once you write a set of code that communicate with the user for display on the user interface on the monitor, you can use the code over and over again. Okay, and finally, the controller normally is, in this case, the index file. It controls the flow of the program and controls how the model is used and how the view is used. Okay, so basically it's a pattern that a lot of web programs use. Okay, also you can even use it in other web applications. So it's a concept that's really useful and can be ported around and can be used for different languages, different databases, and all that. So it's really useful. Okay, so let's start. So we are going to use example 9 as a base. So you have done example 9, you know what they are going to, what was happening. So we are going to use that as a base and change the example 9 code into an MVC pattern, example 10. So save our time in writing from scratch and all that. Okay. So let's first start our XM. Okay, start your Apache, start your MySQL database, and we need to go to our PHP MyAdmin. So I can just go there from here, click on that, and the user is Harry. Okay, I'm just going to Control C and Control V here, copy and paste, and then the password is elbow monkey with the wrong spelling. Control C, Control V here, and sign in. So I'm here. Okay, let me organize my screen a little bit. So we have our Kung Fu Panda shop, and we have been doing things to the products. Okay, we have been deleting things, adding things, messing up things, so the database doesn't look, exactly the same now. So I want to reload the database. Okay, to reload the database, recreate the database and the user. To do that, if you come over here in example 9, we use example 8 create database, and for example 10, we use the same example 8 create database. So we can import that. We have our database file in our C drive, or we can just copy from here. Since I haven't opened my I have not opened my Windows Explorer, I'm just going to copy and paste from here. Okay, so another way of creating the database in here. So come over here, click on step 5, example 10, example 8, create database. So this is the whole text file. And if the user does not exist, we do that. We know the user exists. Okay, and then we grant user privileges, and we know that this is already done. So we are fine. We don't want to create a user because the user is, if you look at the home here. So if we click on the home and look at user accounts, we have a web user here, has already been created. So if you click on here and look at database, the select insert update delete for this database, the user right is okay. So we don't really need to do anything to it. So if we go back to home and I just want to refresh, sort of like refresh, reload the Kung Fu Panda Shop recreate. So I just need a code from create table, create drop database if exists Kung Fu Panda Shop create database all the way to this part. I don't really need to create user again. Okay, so I just want this part. So I will just right click and then copy or Control C. Come over here, go to home, go to SQL, Control V to paste. Okay, Control V to paste. And then click on Go. So I recreate the database again, although they give you some error like they don't like database selection here, but everything is done. So if you go to Kung Fu Panda Shop and go to products, you realize that the products is back to the original situation. Okay, back to normal. So we are good. And then for now, we are good. And we are going to go back to the next part, which is to create the structure for the MVC pattern. Okay, we have our XM running. And we have our Apache and MySQL server running. So now is the time to create the folders for this MVC pattern. So I'm going to right click and then left click on Windows Explorer to open my Windows Explorer. And that is what it looks like. And then go to my C drive. C drive, temp, my PHP. And then we are going to create a new folder called eg010. Okay. And then all the code for this example will be in eg010. And eg0 in that we are going to create the folders to contain the code for each concept, model view, and controller. So let's create a new folder called product manager first. Product underscore manager. Why we need that is because although we only have 3 parts, model view, controller, we could our program may do different things. For example, you have a folder called Product Manager to manage products, and then you create a new folder called Shopping Cart to manage the shopping cart. Okay, the textbook actually talks about how to create two controllers, one for Product Manager, one for Shopping Cart. But we don't have time, so we just do one Product Manager. Okay, and then we are going to create the standard folders for right-click, new folder, model, and then right-click, new folder, view, and then right-click, new folder, errors, ERRORS. Okay, and then I sort the name. All right. So why we have a folder called errors? Okay, the textbook like to put all the errors in one folder, so it's easier to manage. Although I think they should be view, but they decide to put into a different folder. That's fine. So we have Product Manager, we have Model, we have View. Product Manager technically is the controller, okay, because the index file is going to be there. Okay. All right. And then the first thing we want to do is we want to connect to the database. And as you know, anything to do with connection to the database is going to be in model. You're right. So if we go to the model folder, okay, so from here you can see which folder I'm at. I'm in temp, my PHP eg010 model. Okay, and we are going to put our database connection file there. So in example 8 and 9, I named the files in a certain way that it's all in sequence. Okay, but in example 9, we are not going to do that. We are just going to call it what it is. If it's a database, we call it database.php. Okay, so we right click here, create a new text document called database.php. Are you sure? Yes. And then open this in Notepad++. Okay. And we remember that we did this before in example 9. So I'm going to open a new, right click, new file explorer. And I'm going to put it on this side. We go to ctemp, my PHP, example 9. And we have our example 9 database here. Okay, we have our example 10 on this side. I'm going to put it on this side. And I'm going to put example 9 on this side. Okay. And we did it before, 9A database. So let's right click here, open this with Notepad++. So we have the database connection file done for us. Okay, connection, Seafood88, all the good stuff. Just copy all this. Control C to copy or right click copy. Come over here, Control V to paste or right click paste. That's fine. And then I can close my example 9A. So I copy all the code. So database connection should work. Let's check if it works. If I uncheck this, Control S to save. Okay, that should give me a successful in connecting to the database. So let's try that. Open our Firefox, open a new tab, and copy our localhost myPHP. Paste it here. And go to example 10, model, database. Hey, successful, yeah, good. Go back. Okay, example 10. And since it works, I don't need this anymore, so I comment it out again, just to check, Control S to save. So we finish our first file in our model view controller pattern. which is the database file, of course, connection to the database. So the next thing we need to do is to, sorry, let me close this. I don't need that anymore. The next thing I need to do is actually create a database error, and from there you can see how to split the views, okay? But my video is getting too long, so I'm going to stop here and continue from the next video. Thanks for watching. See you soon.